crying babies looking for food. Starvation, the recipe, people subdued. When the people you trust got it in for you. Deceit is the word of the day in every clue. Don't let it go, it's from the days of old. Time is up, but some still do not know. Can I make up my mind? Is it worth the dime? Do I have to take a minute just to make it mine? Life's never fair, but don't listen to the TV. Go out and take a listen to the streets with the people in the slums and the homeless bums with degrees and degrees sitting under a tree. It's not easy in the world for the poor man, the one that brought you to reality. See, they don't want you to know about the black sheep, leaving 7 roads to the 12 families all around the globe with an ancient code. Is it really asking a lot to say a death old? Cause we sitting on the earth looking back at extinct, and I'm standing on some ground that's about to sink. I ain't scared for a minute, I ain't about to blink, but I documented for the world what I see and think. Feel we on the call and I feel we on the break. All Congress gonna do is waste paper and ink. Vote or die, you voted and you'll die. You can have it both ways, can't say it's a lie. You can march all you want, but they playing you wrong. They only understand war, it's the same old song. They want war, all they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more, but they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. All they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more, but they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. Like a lotus coming out of the mud with colors, I create envy in those with power but jealous. I unify the poor with my song, the hell with the others. Descended the way they treat indigenous brothers, cause I understand we link forever. They try to hate us even though that we keep it together. I'm not talking about control the air or the weather, I'm talking about maintaining the truth, the high endeavor. A rebel drops bombs in the midst of trouble. The free world counterattack, and now there's double. But nature gets the shit in the way to settle. If you stop the machines for a minute, you might hear, but they won't, cause the TV's whisper in the ear. And capitalism has eyes that don't tear, and they cloud up and get crazy and won't steer. And like an ab, it's hard to get an ass to listen. Living like this is like.
All right, y'all. 1 2 1 2 1 2. Let me check out the mic real quick just to see if the audio is working. 2 seconds. All right, now good. Now there's been some time since the shutdown has come into effect, so we're getting some feedback. Hey, that Bits. Hey, how you doing? How you doing? Oh my goodness, I don't know if you caught the last stream, but it amazes me sometimes people didn't even know the government was in a federal shutdown. I'm amazed by that. But in any case, you know, it's always like that. Some folks don't always catch the news at the same time. But now the government's in a shutdown. And we went over what a shutdown means. And, you know, but now we've got some response from MAGA Mike Johnson now that the next day has happened, now that they look stupid because he told them to go on vacation. He actually still has to show up, you know, and say something, since the Dems stayed there waiting to have a vote. The Dems are saying they want a vote, you know. Oh, hold on. What'd you say? Good. I was celebrating my son's birthday, although I knew about the shutdown. Yeah, you know, you got to maintain life. You got to continue. It's not a life shutdown button, but it's a federal government, you know, basically pay certain critical or non-essential, as they call non-essential services won't, you know, the funds won't be issued for what they call non-essential services, and that's the shutdown. But all critical essential services continue, you know. So the president gets his check, which is paid by the taxpayers. You know, Mike Johnson, he's a congressional member, unless he's hella corrupt or one of the billionaires out there or millionaires. I would say never vote. You know, be cautious about voting into millionaires into office, you know. But he gets a check from everybody. Everybody that pays federal taxes gets a portion of their payroll tax goes to MAGA Mike Johnson. And I don't know if Americans really see it that way. I do live outside of the U.S., so I know people literally see when they go to work, when they do anything, whether they work or not, whatever you want to call it, when somebody comes and takes money out of your check, and that check goes to, you know, sitting parliamentary members, sitting congressional members, sitting representatives anywhere, when that money goes to that, people are usually concerned about what those people are doing. They get some of their hard-earned labor, right? But I notice in the U.S., they see it a little different. And that's what I wanted to talk about. MAGA Mike Johnson has made a statement, something like able-bodied men, this money is for, they keep repeating this lie, trying to convince people that illegal immigrants are entitled to Medicare. They are not. We went over that. This is not federal dollars. MAGA Mike Johnson gets money. He gets his money from you through federal dollars. Your state representatives don't. Your state representatives get their check through state taxes. That's a state thing, right? Everybody else across the country doesn't get your state tax dollars. You get that. But your federal tax dollars goes to the federal budget. And that's people like MAGA Mike Johnson. They make a living. He's, year after year, day after day, he gets some of everybody's check, no matter who you are, right? Even if he isn't fucking able-bodied. But like he says, he likes to say it, able-bodied men shouldn't be getting money from the federal government. They shouldn't be getting free health care. Able-bodied men. That's Mike Johnson's thing. That's so crazy. But they're lying again because, listen, people pay taxes whether they're able-bodied or not. There's plenty of disabled people that have jobs, in the United States of America that pay federal payroll taxes. It's crazy that he's so comfortable using this language, but let's listen. Let's listen to himself. This is their response. This is their response to it. And no matter who you are in the United States of America, if you believe MAGA Mike Johnson, you are a damn fool because illegal immigrants are not entitled to Medicaid and Medicare. It's just that simple. It's state taxes. Some states do things different, but that doesn't mean your money goes to another state. It doesn't. If you live in Utah, your state taxes do not go to New York City, people. It's just that simple. Has Denmark government ever shut down? Yo, Bits, that's a good question. I don't think so but you know what? I'm going to look that up for you right now because that's a good question. But I've never seen it since I've been here. I've never seen it. I've never heard of it. 2 seconds. I've never heard of it, but I'm sure it's happened from time to time. But, to be honest with you, people, everybody here, pretty much, not everybody, but, the majority, the masses, it's in the what they call the Constitution, certain rights, and so they consider healthcare and education are part of that. That's part of the Scandinavian model, the Nordic model, by the way. So it's not just a matter of law. It's also a matter of what people consider, right, their way of doing things. And in Scandinavia, across the Scandinavia, they consider, healthcare and education something that should be public, something that should be accessible for everybody. They view things that way, right? Now, that doesn't mean everything is accessible, and that doesn't mean that you wouldn't want to have a job to live a nice life. Yes, you would want to have a job to live a nice life, but healthcare and education is not cut off from the basic essentials. It's considered essential. But in any case, let's listen. While I look that up, let's listen to what Mike Johnson has to say now, how he views things. Here we go.
The Democratic proposal is designed to prevent millions of Americans from losing their health insurance, losing Medicaid coverage, or paying higher health care premiums. Why are you against that?
That's an absurd statement, what you said there. Let's be clear about what happened last night, George. No, George, let me tell you what happened last night. Everybody can go and review the facts for themselves. 44 Senate Democrats voted to reject a clean, nonpartisan, continuing funding resolution to keep the United States government open. The Democrats said instead that they wanted to give health care to illegal aliens instead of keeping critical services provided for the American citizens. That's what happened, plain and simple. Every Democrat in the House, except one, voted against the clean continuing resolution. It was nonpartisan in nature. There are no policy riders on it that Republicans favored. It's exactly what Chuck Schumer and other Democrats voted for.
Now, see, MAGA Mike Johnson, he's being manipulative here because when the Democrats signed onto this budget months and months ago, right, they did it stating that right now, it's more important to keep the government open because you got to understand when the shutdown happens, what it means literally is that funding stops going out to other programs. And at that time, Democrats didn't want funding to stop going out. They knew that they could discuss this matter later in the year. So this is you have to know that. So this is how Mike Johnson is manipulating the situation. They never said they wouldn't review this matter. They said from the beginning the big ugly bill gutting health care from Americans was wrong, but to keep the government open at that time, they would do it because they knew they would have another chance, and that's literally what they said. And here is the second time. So they actually said they were going to do this. A lot of Democrats were against Schumer the last time because Schumer said we should keep it open for now and then deal with this later. A lot of Democrats wanted to go hardline and said, fuck that. Let's not even sign it right now. Right. So actually, Schumer got his way the last time in keeping it open. Now, let's listen to what Mike Johnson says again. Now that we reviewed that, let's listen one more time. And you could hear he basically just lied. He basically lied. So here we go.
Statement, what you said there. Let's be clear about what happened last night, George. No, George, let me tell you what happened last night. Everybody can go and review the facts for themselves. 44 Senate Democrats voted to reject a clean, nonpartisan continuing funding resolution to keep the United States government open. The Democrats said instead that they wanted to give health care to illegal aliens instead of keeping critical services provided for the American citizens.
Medicaid, Medicare has nothing to do with illegal aliens. He's just lying flat out to American people. That's state taxes. That's completely different. And you can't just arbitrarily say all Democrats support that because there's not one state that gives out state rights unilaterally. It's state by state. All Democrat states and Republican states don't have the same minimum wage, for example. None of them do. It's all different. And your rights and your state rights in each state is all different. You don't have the same kind of gun rights in each state. So this is where MAGA Mike Johnson manipulates.
Citizens. That's what happened, plain and simple. Every Democrat in the House, except one, voted against the clean continuing resolution. It was nonpartisan in nature. There are no policy riders on it that Republicans favored. It's exactly what Chuck Schumer and other Democrats voted for in March. But they've changed their tune. They changed their tune because Chuck Schumer is having...
They voted for it in March, saying that they didn't want it to shut down then. They wanted the payments to go out instead to continue because they literally said they could confront this issue later in the year. And that's exactly what they're doing right now. So their goal was never to continue it anyway. They said that. They said they were going to confront the big ugly bill, which passed anyway with a couple of Democrats. The Dems were angry. A lot of Dems were angry at Schumer, but most Dems voted against it. Now that they're approaching it again, Schumer says, you know what? I'm not. We're all going to hold out. Now, let's just listen some more.
Political
Hold on.
problems right now. That's just a simple fact, and everybody knows it. He's trying to outrun the far left portion of his base, so he's decided to inflict pain on the American people.
Here are facts. Here are the facts. The proposal does not provide health care for illegal immigrants. Illegal immigrants cannot buy health care under the Affordable Care Act. They cannot receive health care subsidies. No. Illegal immigrants are ineligible for Medicare, Medicaid, and the Children's Health Program. The Democratic bill does not make them eligible.
It does, actually, because what it does is it unwinds the changes that Republicans put into the big, beautiful bill, the big signature legislation.
It doesn't unwind. Look, see, now he's lying again. It doesn't unwind any ability for them to access Medicaid or Medicare because it is illegal for anyone who is not a legal resident in the United States to get access to it. It's just that simple. That's part of the law. That's Medicaid law. That was passed before Mike Johnson. It's never been legal. Again, he's conflating, and he's doing it on purpose, conflating certain states' laws, which is not unilateral across the United States. I don't even know if there's one state law that's of course, there's not one state law that's unilateral across states because that doesn't make any sense. Every state makes its own goddamn laws. And this guy is he's relying on American citizens to not know civics, to not know their own civics. But now let me answer Bit's question. Bits, Denmark, listen here. It says Denmark has never had a government shutdown like those that occur in the United States. Here's why. How Denmark's system avoids shutdowns. Parliamentary system, Folketinget, is called Folketinget in Denmark, right? The parliament. In Denmark, the government is led by the prime minister, must maintain confidence in parliament. If it loses support over a budget, the government might resign or call a new election, but the state doesn't shut down. So the state bills, that means healthcare, education, all those things that are collected to that are called essentials in the Nordic model are not called essentials in the U.S. American model. You see what I mean? And it's mostly essentials. These things like education and healthcare are essentials in the, across the NATO countries. The only one is the U.S. pretty much. But here's the thing. You know what that literally means? It means that if you try to not pay the bills for any reason as a president, if you don't get these bills passed, if you don't get this shit passed as the president, the parliament leader, they could have a new presidential election right now. Right now. Right now. That's what that means. So if this happened in Denmark, they would be elected a new prime minister right now. And anybody else who want to get removed, they would be removing Mike Johnson's ass. Maybe even Schumer too. Anybody. But see, the difference is that the United States needs a supermajority. You need a supermajority to make sure that what is called essential, right, or critical, right, includes healthcare for all citizens. What is called critical should include access to education, higher education for all American citizens. That's the difference. And it's never been made that as a supermajority, not higher education and not healthcare. That's the problem in the USA. So the parliament, the U.S. Congress and Senate has just never done that for American citizens. Now, you got loads. Listen to how Mike Johnson comes in later and starts talking about able-bodied men should get out there and work. Yo, it's wrong. Able-bodied people and disabled people pay federal taxes because disabled people fucking work too. Listen to this guy. This is crazy.
That we passed and signed into law on July 4th. That has been very successful in shoring up Medicaid for the people who are actually eligible to receive it. What we did in the bill, and the CBO just verified this 3 weeks ago, the Congressional Budget Office, the nonpartisan arbiters of everything up here, they said that those provisions have helped to reduce premiums. Why? Because we got ineligible recipients off of Medicaid, illegal aliens, and able-bodied young men who are riding the wagon who are not eligible to be there. Medicaid is intended for specific populations of U.S. citizens. That is young, pregnant women who are down on their luck, the disabled and the elderly. Those resources are being drained from those folks, and so we fixed that. We reduced fraud, waste, and abuse in the program. Chuck Schumer's counterproposal on the CR would reverse that. That is a simple fact.
The CBO did not say that about illegal immigrants. You've made your...
Listen, there's a lot of people that conflate things. Laura, Florida has no state tax, right? But you have sales tax. And if you just go in, I don't know if you're from Florida, maybe you're not, maybe you are. But if you just go look it up, you will find out that even Florida's state taxes contribute into their own services. And part of those services is healthcare in Florida, too. So, again, you have payroll taxes, which are federal payroll taxes. Then you have state payroll taxes, which are only state by state. They decide what they pay in themselves. Doesn't matter what someone else from another state decides to do. They can do it differently state by state when it comes to state federal payroll taxes. And then guess what else you have? You also have sales taxes that generate money for the state, which they can use. And only the state legislator in each independent state across the United States of America decides themselves. So you don't have to worry about what someone else does. But what happens is that in these times, people and representatives make it sound like state taxes, it has something to do with federal tax, with their job. And state taxes has zero to do with Mike Johnson's job. So we shouldn't be talking about it in a way that it does. And he literally talks about healthcare that way. It's crazy. But here, let's listen to some more.
Point right there. Also said at the Pentagon yesterday that he wants American cities to be used as training grounds for the American military. Is this the highest and best use of the U.S. military, and is this the right way to train them?
I don't serve in the Pentagon. I run the House of Representatives, and what we need to be talking about.
The Democratic proposal is designed to prevent millions of Americans from losing their health insurance, losing Medicaid coverage, or paying higher health care premiums. Why are you against that?
That's an absurd statement, what you said there. Let's be clear about what happened last night, George. No, George, let me tell you what happened last night. Everybody can go and review the facts for themselves. 44 Senate Democrats voted to reject a clean, nonpartisan, continuing funding resolution to keep the United States government open. The Democrats said instead that they wanted to give health care to illegal aliens instead of keeping.
That's a lie. So if you're happy with a congressional member who gets paid off of your federal payroll taxes himself lying. Now, just understand this. Every person who has a job, who clocks in 9 to 5, whether you're able-bodied or not, if you pay, because there's loads of disabled people, again, there's loads of gays, there's loads of disabled, there's loads of black, white, Asian, there's loads of all kinds of people, people that are married, people that are not married, people that are pregnant, people that are not pregnant, people that are, all kinds of shit, right? All these people pay MAGA Mike Johnson's salary because it's federal. His salary comes from federal payroll taxes. Now, is it okay to have any member of the United States Congress or Senate or the president or the vice president, any person that gets your taxes, is it okay that they lie just that easily? Is that okay that they lie? Because it's already illegal, passed by Congress, through the Medicaid, through the American health care plan, whatever, Obamacare. It's already illegal by law for any illegal immigrant to get health care through that shit. It's just illegal. It doesn't happen. Again, certain states like Florida, through state taxes, whether it's through sales tax or whether it's through state payroll taxes, they decide themselves state by state without any interference of the federal government whatsoever what they do with their own state tax dollars. Now, some of them have decided that every person that is in their state, if they have a car accident, if they have an emergency, that their health care will be covered on the emergency level. That doesn't mean something that's long and drawn out. That means just to make sure you don't die in whatever accident happened. A lot of states pay for that on their own, right? But that is not federal taxes. That has nothing to do with Mike Johnson. It has nothing to do with your federal payroll tax. States have decided that on their own, just like some states help other women that get pregnant in certain cases that don't have health care. A lot of this stuff is taking care of the essential, the first part, just the first part, right? So you don't die, And again, that's what happens in Denmark every day of the week. If you vacation to a European country, right? If anything happens to you, if you have a car accident, you don't even use your health care from your own country, from your own town. It's taken care of by the people of Denmark, the emergency part right away. Now, if you need help past the emergency stage, the life-threatening stage, if you need help beyond that, then you better get some health care. And if you're not a resident or citizen of Denmark, you ain't getting no health care off the taxpayer's dime here. But the emergency part, you actually do. The emergency part, you actually do. And everyone is fine with that here. In some states in the United States of America, people are fine with that also. But that's paid for by the state. That's not through the federal tax through the federal tax system. So yeah, it's
services
manipulative.
Provided for the American citizens. That's what happened, plain and simple. Every Democrat in the House, except one, voted against the clean continuing resolution.
Oh, right. That's a good question. Does it mean that a deleter? Right. Let me find that out. Let me see. Okay, let me find that out for you, Bits. That's a good question.
It was nonpartisan in nature. There are no policy writers on it that Republicans favored. It's exactly what Chuck Schumer and other Democrats voted for in March. But they've changed their tune. They changed their tune because Chuck Schumer is having political problems right now. That's just a simple fact, and everybody knows it. He's trying to outrun the far left portion of his base, so he's decided to inflict pain on the American people.
Here are facts. Here are the facts. The proposal does not provide health care for illegal immigrants. Illegal immigrants cannot buy health care under the Affordable Care Act. They cannot receive health care subsidies. No. Illegal immigrants are ineligible for Medicare, Medicaid, and the Children's Health Program. The Democratic bill does not make them eligible.
It does, actually.
Okay, so here you go. Yeah, he's going to continue his lie. But Bits, to answer your question, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Congress, they get a salary, right? So these people are getting salaries. They're not clocking in by the hour, but they get their salaries through federal tax dollars. So just like he's standing there right now talking to the people while the government is in a shutdown, he can actually call in a vote not a vote. He can actually go into session and swear in the congressional member, the woman, Adelita Grayalva, yeah, I believe she's from Arizona, right? And they can release the Epstein files if MAGA Mike Johnson wanted to do the job that he's getting paid for by all Americans that are able-bodied and unable-bodied. Any American that pays federal payroll tax, they pay MAGA Mike Johnson to do his job. And right now, MAGA Mike Johnson has not sworn her in. So, but he's there. He's in Washington, D.C. right now, as you can see, which is an excellent question. I'm so glad you asked that question, the Bits. Yeah, this is just crazy. But in any case, just to go over some basics again with people, let's listen to what is factual and what is not factual. Here, let's go through it again.
The claim that Democrats want to give health care to illegal undocumented immigrants is largely false as a general statement, though it has some nuance depending on levels of government and specific policies. Below is a breakdown of what is true, what is false, and why the claim is misleading. What is true, accurate? 1. Undocumented immigrants are generally ineligible for most federal health insurance programs. At the federal level, undocumented immigrants cannot enroll in Medicaid except for limited emergency services, Medicare, or get subsidies via the Affordable Care Act, ACA, marketplace. KFF, the exception is emergency Medicaid, which in many states covers life-threatening care, for example, childbirth complications, even for people who would otherwise be ineligible. KFF, some states supplement health coverage using state or local funds outside the federal system to cover children or pregnant people regardless of immigration status. KFF2. Some state-level programs or proposals do expand health coverage to immigrants regardless of status. A number of states have used their own funds, not federal Medicaid funds, to provide coverage to children or even adults regardless of immigration status. KFF. When Democrats or some state governments propose reforming healthcare access, they may include provisions to expand state health programs further. 2. Some current political disputes or budget proposals are misrepresented or exaggerated. For example, a House reconciliation bill was described by some Republican sources as removing 1.4 million illegal immigrants from Medicaid. However, fact-checkers point out that those 1.4 million people were from state-funded health programs, not federal Medicaid, since undocumented immigrants are not eligible for full Medicaid in the first place. Factcheck.org, the claim that Democrats want to destroy health care by giving it to undocumented immigrants is considered by fact-checkers, e.g. the New York Times, NBC, CNN, to be a false exaggeration or misrepresentation. The Daily Beast, why the claim is misleading, false in general. Because of existing federal laws, undocumented immigrants are largely barred from enrolling in federal health insurance programs, Medicaid, Medicare, ACA subsidies. Much of what the
I think what's happening is again, MAGA Mike Johnson, he conflates it, and the Republicans conflate this argument because federal payroll taxes is what pays for Medicaid and Medicare, right? These funds get distributed across the country, but it gets distributed through state programs on the state level inside of the state. So each state has its own programming. So they get federal tax dollars from the federal payroll taxes that they pay, that everyone that works pays into. And then some state level taxes go into it also. So this is why into the same program. Right. But it's not called Medicare or Medicaid in these states. Once it gets there, it's just the monies that's going out. That's called that largely state by state. And I think people are getting confused by, what contributions are made by the states. But again, these are states. This is when a state goes out and gives everybody, not just immigrants, but everybody dental care through their national or through their statewide program. That's not illegal immigrants. That's just everybody. You see what I mean? And I don't even think it's illegal, because if you don't have some form of documentation, then you likely won't get it either. So you have immigrants, residents, citizens, and then illegal immigrants. And again, illegal immigrant is also this day in the Republican day being conflated to illegal immigrant. Just immigrant itself is being conflated to illegal immigrant. And a lot of people today, a lot of Americans just see Hispanic speaking immigrants or non-English speaking immigrants as illegals flat off the bat, without any investigation, without any real, knowledge of who they are or what they're doing. And, again, I think it's to the disservice of American people, because what happens is when people are not clear about their civics, people like MAGA Mike Johnson get a job, get a salary from everybody across the country through our federal payroll taxes that we pay. People like Elon Musk get a check. Yes, he gets a check too. All those grants that he's gotten, all those government contracts comes through federal payroll taxes. Yeah, Peter Thiel, all those federal contracts that he gets comes through your federal payroll taxes also. And what happens is that while they're getting loads of money, what they're doing is pointing you at the small amount of money that some immigrant gets or illegal immigrant gets, to get you to not even be worried about the money they're getting from you out of your check, out of your hourly wage every single day, or out of your contract job, whatever it is, however you pay your payroll tax, your federal payroll taxes. They use it as a diversion. And it's pretty sickening, because what happens is that while they can divert you, they're also cutting everybody else out of healthcare. Everyone else, not the vast amount of people that's going to be affected by this. Aren't illegal immigrants. The vast amount of people, make no mistake about it whatsoever. The big, beautiful bill came after middle class people, middle class Americans, citizens. That's who it came after. Middle class American citizens and the underclass, the poor American citizens. That's who the big, beautiful, ugly bill primarily stripped healthcare from. It's not illegal immigrants. It's just a fact. And that's really sad. That's really sad, because people fought in wars, many wars, and died and shed blood in the United States of America for a country where they haven't even decided if all citizens should get health care. They start changing it around to able-bodied. Oh, so all of a sudden, the people that got disability, right? The people who serve their country, the people who aren't able-bodied, but their parents were able-bodied, they don't get health care. They're not deserving to MAGA Mike Johnson. You see what I mean? You see what I'm saying? You could have a family member that went to war, got a sickness because of war, and that sickness passed down to their children. Yes, literally. These guys, they're so heartless. And Americans better get their civics together, like seriously, because, while while you might be set at hurting each other, while you American citizens might be happy that some other American citizen is being harmed, that's just not the rest of the Western world. The rest of the Western world, they're not clapping when some other citizen is being harmed. They're not that partisan. They're actually saying, nah, actually, let's lift our citizens up. Let's preserve our place in this world. And they're just seeing it totally different and going about it totally different. And, it's really sad to see my own country that I come from go about it this way and be so partisan, but really just be able to lie, because it's disgusting to just lie openly like that. It's disgusting to lie openly like that. But I mean, this is what Americans say that they wanted, so it's so sad. It's so sad. But, what else can be done about it? Not much else can be done. Hold on. Let me see here. Where's Mike Johnson? So that's what Johnson says about healthcare. This is what he says about Trump's idea that, we're going to let me play Trump first. Trump says this. This is Trump's words, and some people agree with it. A lot of people agree that U.S. military should be involved in policing American streets.
What they've done to San Francisco, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, they're very unsafe places, and we're going to straighten them out one by one. And this is going to be a major part for some of the people in this room. That's a war, too. It's a war from within. Controlling the physical territory of our border is essential to national security. We can't let these people in.
So if you are in New York.
So there it is. So that's Trump for you. Trump has decided that it's okay for the U.S. military to go in to states and police states, and he's sitting there in front of military generals. All the generals were called in for a meeting, and he sat there and is priming these people for that. And is it embarrassing? Depending on who you talk to. I think it's embarrassing. I think it's sickening. But apparently there's a lot of people that still are not embarrassed enough, you could say, or are not shocked enough about it. And, now this is what Trump said the last time about this healthcare stuff. Hold on. Let's see here. Trump said something different before he was the president. I don't know how many people know that, but let's play it back. Where is it at here? He said something totally different. Let me try to cue it up. Can y'all hear that? Let's see here. This is what he said last time.
The Democrats are going to be blamed and the Republicans are going to be blamed. I actually think the president would be blamed. If there is a shutdown, I think it would be a tremendously negative mark on the president of the United States. He's the one that has to get people together.
They're not going to be talking who the head of the House was, the head of the Senate, who's running things in Washington. So I really think the pressure is.
The Democrats are going to be blamed and the Republicans are going to be blamed. I actually think the president would be blamed. If there is a shutdown, I think it would be a tremendously negative mark on the president of the United States. He's the one that has to get people together.
They're not going to be talking who the head of the House was, the head of the Senate, who's running things in Washington. So I really think the pressure is.
The Democrats are going to be blamed and the Republicans are going to be blamed. I actually think the president would be blamed. If there is a shutdown, I think it would be a tremendously negative mark on the president of the United States. He's the one that has to get people together.
They're not going to be talking who the head of the House was, the head of the Senate, who's running things in Washington. So I really think the pressure is.
The Democrats are going to be blamed and the.
Right. So before Trump was president, Trump had a different opinion entirely. So back then, Trump believed that, hey, he disagreed with MAGA Mike Johnson. MAGA Mike Johnson thinks that it's Schumer that's the problem, that it's the Democrats that's the problem. The Democrats say that it is MAGA Mike Johnson and it's the Republicans who are the problem. Well, before Trump became president, he disagreed with both of them. He thought it would be Biden's problem, the president, the Biden or Obama, or Kamala, that it would be them who would be the problem. And now that he's president, he's saying it totally different. Let's listen.
The Republicans are going to be blamed. I actually think the president would be blamed. If there is a shutdown, I think it would be a tremendously negative mark on the president of the United States. He's the one that has to get people together.
They're not going to be talking who the head of the House was, the head of the Senate, who's running things in Washington. So I really think the pressure is.
The Democrats are going to be blamed and the Republicans are going to be blamed. I actually think the president would be blamed. If there is a shutdown, I think it would be a tremendously negative mark on the president of the United States.
There it is. So he thinks that it was different back then. But listen, folks, I got to be out for the moment. I just came in for a short time just to say what's up and to follow up with MAGA Mike Johnson. But I hope American citizens have a little more respect for their tax dollars. And the best way that you can is by getting the civics together. And, because these representatives seem to be able to just lie, and, and conflate civics in such a disgusting way. Look, MAGA Mike Johnson, Donald Trump, Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, no matter who you want to talk about, right? J.D. Vance, they all are getting your federal tax dollars right now. Elon Musk is, Peter Thiel is, they're all getting your tax dollars right now because you pay for this. No matter how you feel about it, you pay for it. No matter who you agree with or you disagree with, you're paying for that agreement and you're paying for that disagreement. So let's say you support Trump. You still pay Schumer's check. Yes, you do. Because Schumer gets paid through federal tax dollars. Oh my God. No matter if you disagree with MAGA Mike Johnson, because he's elected to Congress, you pay part of that. You're helping to pay for his expenses. You could agree or not, but you pay for it. And it's so sad that the president doesn't want to be a president for all Americans, that he doesn't see that, wait a minute, blue states, just as many blue state people pay my salary as red state people do. This president doesn't operate that way. J.D. Vance, he doesn't care how many blue state people pay his salary as vice president. He doesn't care. He doesn't care if you pay what you pay for the maintenance of the Capitol. He doesn't pay for, they don't care if blue state people, their salary, part of their salary goes to pay for the military to fight wars, goes to paying for weapons. No, he doesn't think that you're good enough. If you're a poor person who doesn't make enough money or a middle class person that doesn't make enough money, but you work, they don't care. They think that your federal tax dollars should go to all kinds of other shit. But when it comes to healthcare and education, it should not go to you. That's what they think. That's how it is. That's how it's going to be until there is a supermajority that can change the foundational laws, in the United States of America, like other Western countries have already done. So on that note, I'm out, y'all. Peace. I catch up with y'all in the morning. 12 hours from now, I'll be back. So I hope everything stays well for everybody. Until then, peace. Release the Epstein files. And yeah, Trump is a Hitler. That's right, Paul.